Today is the first day for submissions to enter the lottery to apply for the first round of retail cannabis licenses in Ontario. For reaction now, let's bring in pot activist Jodie Emery joining us from Vancouver. Thanks for joining us, Jodie. Let's start here. There's been a lot of contempt prior to the legalization here in Ontario, with the PC government here pressing pause on the brick and mortar shops and allegedly strong-arming production and distribution. So what do you make of this Ontario license open lottery system?
Well, it's unnecessary and it's unfortunate because we know that there's so much cannabis in Canada. There are hundreds of entrepreneurs who can easily open up businesses overnight, fully stocked, and yet that's been criminalized under this so-called legalization. I understand why the Ford government is limiting it to 25 stores, because the federal government has restricted and limited the supply of cannabis. We're seeing shortages in the legal system. But the Ford government promised an open model where everyone could apply, and that means a lot of people have already lost a lot of money thinking that they would be able to be open for business. This lottery is very interesting because we're going to see people being severely punished with enormous financial costs if they can't be open for business in just as short as 3 months.
Jodie, do you see the resistance that you're talking about to this, sort of craft grower model relaxing anytime soon?
Well, the federal government has announced that they're opening up for micro growing and craft growing, and I have some news later this week related to that, so stay tuned.
Okay.
But we're very excited to see legalization afford access and freedom to everyone involved. Again, legalization was supposed to acknowledge that there's so much cannabis, so many people using it, so many business people generating so much money. Why don't we stop criminalizing it and just tax and regulate it? But this model that the government has put into place over the last few years has been really just to benefit the very rich, the people who already have a lot of money. Even this lottery itself is so expensive that only those who are well positioned to wait things out can afford to play. We should recognize that cannabis supply does exist in Canada. It's just still criminalized under this legalization. I'm hopeful that entrepreneurs like myself, people who are typically marginalized and kept out of the business industry, they should be afforded an opportunity. So we'll see who wins these golden tickets.
Let's talk more about this positioning and leverage. And you and I spoke about this a while ago. There's economists out there that are saying that we're in a position to either become the Saudi Arabia or the BlackBerry of cannabis. Where do we fall on that scale?
Oh, wow. I'm trying to be hopeful, but from the beginning, the government federally has said we need to restrict and limit access to cannabis. Bill Blair went across Canada on a 3-year tour, talking to every city, every provincial government, every police force, saying cannabis is a threat to public health and public safety. So that resulted in municipalities saying, oh my goodness, we need to ban cannabis, and we've seen that. It's resulted in provinces, provincial governments saying, oh my goodness, we need to ban this cannabis thing and bring in tough new rules. So federally, provincially, locally, we're seeing a new prohibition, new punishments. And the only people who have benefited are big business, big government, and police. We're seeing enormous profits going to very rich people, including a lot of former cops and politicians. If you follow me on Twitter, you've seen my list of 45 former cops and government officials who are making millions of dollars on the marijuana stock market. Meanwhile, the consumers, the advocates, the pioneers, and prohibition victims are left scrambling, still persecuted, still suffering. This isn't the legalization we hoped for, but it sure gives me a lot of work as an activist in the months and years ahead. Jodie,
your position's always been that vilifying cannabis is unethical when you weigh the health and social benefits. But sounds like you're also making the case that it's just bad business. Doesn't make sense.
Oh, it doesn't make sense. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars per year more on top of the $500 million already spent for marijuana law enforcement. No Canadian has missed the news that police and cities across this country are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on marijuana law enforcement against something that's supposed to be legal. We're not seeing the economic opportunities that have been presented. We're seeing a lot of marijuana growth in the business sense going outside of Canada, and that's a major concern. Cannabis for decades has been a homegrown industry by Canadians, for Canadians, generating money that stays here at home. But now this pot stock market, this model of big dollars and big government, it's sucking money out of Canada, and we're going to lose our position. We could be leaders on this front, but I'm afraid the Liberals' restrict and limit approach is trying to restrict and limit the opportunities to a very select few. So let's try and change that with fair cannabis laws and regulations, and that's another campaign we're going to be launching soon too.
Jodie Emery, live in Vancouver. Thanks so much, and we look forward to your breaking news later.